Payton Thorne's response about being asked if younger guys are going to play. He said the goal is still to win games. I think you could do both.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Today's show is a conversation that we had with our good friend Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika This Morning on News Talk WANI earlier this week. We talk about what Payton Thorne said on the next round, and hey, Auburn basketball is here. Here's that conversation.
Zac, Payton Thorne, again, a lot of this, it's turned into kind of a reaction because you and I will sit and we'll watch the interviews that they've done with our friends at the next round, and they asked him a lot of football questions this time, and he was very open, and he covered everything from whether it's playing youngsters to he was asking about Jarquez Hunter. He was asking about the offense, not just Auburn's offense, but offense in general, numbers being down around the conference. And so he kind of, for it being a bye week, he kind of was a football junkie this time around.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, that's certainly what people want, I think, when they tune in to hear what the quarterback has to say. And so, yeah, he was asked about, the idea of incorporating younger guys to prepare for the future, which is a big topic that we've had almost daily on Locked On Auburn at this point. And he says that he hasn't really heard any of that. And he said the goal is still to just go and win the game at hand. And my question is well, outside of quarterback, they've kind of done that. Outside of quarterback and offensive line, in situations where it makes sense to go young, they've done it at every position except for those two. And those guys, for the most part, have excelled and helped Auburn as much as they can. It hasn't turned into wins, unfortunately, but I do believe that those young guys give Auburn the best chance to win in most situations. Does that apply to quarterback? I don't know. Like, should you put in a Hank Brown at this point? That's going to be up to the coaches, and I'm sure they're going to have that discussion over the course of the bye week. But to say oh no, Auburn still needs to focus on winning these games, I think you can play the young guys and still be in as good of a situation to win these games. I mean, Auburn has 3 wins at this point of the season, and it's not like it'd be this tremendous drop off if they played more young guys, which at this point, I almost don't know how they do play more young guys. They're playing a ton of snaps and they're looking good out there.
Yeah, that question had to be directed basically towards him.
It's the only one that really makes sense.
Yeah, do you see your job in jeopardy? And the reason being is because the young guys are playing, especially defensively. The young guys are playing. Offensively, I mean, you're talking about guys that are on the outside. They're playing and they're doing well. They're successful when they're being targeted. So they had to be directing that question more towards the quarterback role. Now, you still hear from Freeze from time to time where he says, well, Payton is the one that gives us the best chance to win. Well, with only 3 wins on the season, I'm all for a Hank Brown, or I'm all for even a Walker White, as bad as that sounds. Man. I know that a lot of people don't want to hear that, but he could play these 3 games and still keep his red shirt because he hasn't seen the field yet. So I'm all for a combination of Hank Brown and Walker White to see who gets things rolling, because right now, Zac, putting 7 points on the board is just atrocious.
Yeah, the 7 points thing is bad. Do I think Walker fixes that? I don't. I mean,
and I don't think he's a fix. I'm not saying that. I don't think he's a fix. I think that it's just time to see something. We've seen what this staff has told us gives them the best chance to win, and there's only 3 wins to show from it. So why not try something different, whether it would benefit it or hurt it? At this point, honestly, what are you playing for? 3 straight wins does get you bowl eligible. And so,
I think 3 straight wins would do a lot for you. I don't think Auburn's going to win 3. I don't think they're going to win 2 at this point, if I'm being honest with you. But if they were to win all 3, I mean, it would do a lot for your momentum in the offseason. It would get you bowl eligible. 2 of those wins would be over ranked opponents. Like, that would be a ton of momentum going into the offseason. But I mean, I think you just said it. It's like the staff has done what they've believed is the best chance to win all season, and you haven't been winning. And so at what point do you change things just for the sake of changing things? I don't know. To me, I think there's an argument for it. If you truly believe that Payton is like head and shoulders above everybody else, then like you need to keep playing Payton. If that's the case, I don't know if that's the case, but if the decision makers on this team, Hugh Freeze, believes that, then that's what he should do. Regardless of the criticism that he's going to get for it, that is what he should do if he thinks that like there's just no comparison between the two quarterbacks. I find that hard to believe at this point. I think you go with higher ceiling now versus the argument for a higher floor. But I don't think we'll know that until game week.
I mean, we're being told, number one, Payton gives us the best chance to win. Number two, we're being told he's better out of the pocket than, say, Hank is. Walker's still with the red shirt, not going to be, I don't know that we would know what he looks like out of the pocket. I know from his high school tapes, he did fairly well when he got loose just because of his build and his size and that kind of thing. But here's the funny part about that, Zach. They say that about Payton, and yes, when the pocket breaks down and he's able to scamper for a few, but all the design runs, he's not going anywhere right now. Like he's just as effective. That quarterback draw from out of the end zone was just as effective if Hank Brown would have been running it. Would have been just as effective as probably you and I would have been running it, as it didn't go anywhere. And then a little bit later on what was it, the second drive of the game, that pass he missed to Luke Deal over the middle, he missed him by 12 yards. I mean, that wasn't even and everybody goes, well, why are we throwing to Luke Deal? Charlie Five and I had that discussion too. Well, that's the reason. He's open. They did not scout for that, for him to be that loose and that open. And if you can't hit a guy that's 6'5", 260, there's an issue there.
Yeah, that's also not on like Payton, right? Like, I mean, as far as who's out there running routes,
right?
As far as the throw, 100% is on Payton. Assuming Luke Deal ran the right route at the right depth and all that. I mean, it was pretty overthrown to your point. So I don't know how a different route would have really changed that. I'm just trying to, attack it from all angles. But yeah, it's just it's sad. It's super sad.
I guess my point on something like that though is, I think my expectations are higher for a fifth-year quarterback, fifth-year senior, than it would be for Hank or for Walker. If they miss that throw, I attribute it to youth. He misses that throw, I attribute it to like a preparedness. Not really.
Yeah, or at this point, like you are who you are, and you can't get the job done at an SEC level. Like that's okay too, but the situation hasn't been perfect for Payton. But then, but when you overthrow wide open guys, it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? The drops haven't helped him.
Right.
Pass protection. I'm not as down on this O-line as a lot of people are, whatever. But it's like the situation hasn't been perfect for Payton. And, I want to be sensitive to that. But at some point, and this is what people say is like, well, what has he done to lose the job over the last few weeks? It's like, well, go win it. Like, go win a football game.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was a point in time where we had the Jason Campbells of the world, or I'll even put Stidham in this category, or even Bo Nix of the world, or anybody where down a score at the end of the ball, you're going into the fourth, you felt confident that we could move the ball. I am not confident that Auburn can move the ball at any point in the ball game, especially when they're playing from behind.
Yeah, and that was my whole thing with Vanderbilt when it was set. It felt like it was 7-7 forever. And it's like, man, I trust their quarterback way more than ours.
Yes.
I trust their offense way more than ours.
Yes.
And then when Vandy had that long punt return and then they settled for 3, it's like, I don't know if we got 3 points in us.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible feeling. Like,
no,
it
stinks.
It stinks.
And that's another thing. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Towns Magoo was almost flawless in high school. And I don't know what kind of case of the yips he's received now that he's at Auburn, but he seems lost. He looks so uncomfortable out there.
Ask him to make 50-yarders when he's not going to make it. It's not helping his situation.
No, it's not. No, I mean, if he misses from 30 and then you ask him to go out there 50, I'm like, oh, he's just thinking the confidence killer. This is going to be. And that was kind of my argument too with, when you go to either Hank or playing Walker here at the end, now that he can play those 3 games. My argument is, do you kill Hank's confidence if he's not able to move the ball instead of you can use it as a building or a teaching tool if Walker's back there? I don't know. I don't know the answer to the situation. I just know everything we're being told that gives Auburn the best chance to win is not winning football games. So It's time to do something different.
All right. They said something interesting about Jarquez Hunter that you pointed out. So I want to get your thoughts on that. And then we'll spend a few minutes on Auburn basketball. The season is finally here. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Ben, today's show is brought to you by our friends at ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. You love drinking alcohol. You love it, but you hate being hungover.
You're talking. This is a read. You're talking to like everybody, not just me. I thought you were talking just to me.
I'm talking to you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Do we need to recut this?
No, I love it.
All right. You post pictures of you drinking all the time. I assume that was just out there that you like to drink some, but you don't like to be hungover the next day.
Correct.
And a way you can like not be hungover and feel great the next day, ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. It was concocted by a bunch of smart people with PhDs. It's science, baby.
MIT
science.
People. Yeah, I know it.
You drink the pre-alcohol for best results. Make the pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Then you drink responsibly, as you tend to do, Ben Taylor.
I do.
And then step 3, you feel great the next day.
I know. It's huge.
Easy. It's that easy. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege. Learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code LockedOnCollege at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Payton was asked a question about Jarquez Hunter, which is reasonable at this point. And you thought that interaction and exchange was interesting.
I thought it was awkward. Not just interesting. I thought it was awkward. And
break that down for us.
And the reason being is because it's no secret now. After the game, it was asked about Jarquez's touches, which you and I just did a pod last week where I said I need 25 touches out of him or 25 runs out of him, 30 touches total.
How many did you get?
I got 12 runs and I got 4 targets. Not necessarily touches, but 4 targets. So total.
You got 3 of them, right?
Yeah, 3 of the 4. So total of, so basically 15.
But all 3 of those came from when Auburn was down multiple scores at the end of the game.
Correct.
So not relevant touches.
Right. And I listen, they weren't moving the ball at all. And even when Jarquez was running the ball, he was only picking up 2 and 3 yards at the time.
Okay, let's talk about this because that's just not true. And a lot of people came at me yesterday about that too, saying he wasn't getting anywhere. I mean, it wasn't what he did against Kentucky. I'm pulling it up because I want to be correct. He had 12 carries for 50 yards. That's 4.2 a play.
Yeah.
That's not awful.
No, it's not awful. And I think the frustration comes as a fan watching it, and he's just basically they're not giving it to him in space. They're not allowing him to get out because that's his thing. Is the first guy rarely brings him down. So why would you shove him up in the middle with 5 or 6 guys that can put their hands and helmets on him when you can kind of get him a little bit to the outside, maybe use Luke Deal or somebody like that to maybe lead for him. Let him just go one-on-one with an outside linebacker. He gets past him, and then we see where we go from there.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess the argument to that would be like, I think there's more stuff you can do off of the RPO with inside track.
I agree with
handoffs, and then also the run blocking of your interior, I think, is better than what you're getting out of your tackles right now. Just because Connor Lew, and then Jeremiah Wright's been solid as well. So I guess I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to make sense.
Yeah, but I say all that to say this. Hugh Freeze said after the game he was winded. That was the term he used. As
that's rough. That's brutal.
And so they asked him a kind of a 2-parter. What did you think about Jarquez being winded? Did you know this going into the game? Did you know it in the middle of the game? And Payton's response was, that's not something I really brought up to Jarquez. I think that's maybe something the staff or the head coach should need to discuss with you, not me. So all that did was give me more questions where I'm sitting there going, okay, so he wasn't winded? Because I would think in a huddle or on a sideline, your running back would look at the quarterback and say, I ain't got it in me today.
Ben, we posted go to thebarnauburn.com. You can sign up for your first month. It's just $1. And it might be worth it just to check this out. But one of our folks on the ground, Taylor Korn, she posted some pictures that she took of Jarquez in the 4th quarter when he was on the sideline. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he did not look happy that he was on the sideline.
Yeah, I don't think it was winded. I think he was, let's just say it, I think he was pissed off. I think that was part of it. I don't know why the winded
which is
situation.
all like, give me a ticked off Jarquez Hunter.
Yes.
Give him the football.
Yes.
Give him the football.
Exactly. And he was unheard of in that ball game. So
it's insane.
Payton did not say he should have been out there, but reading between the lines on that interview and how he looked at the camera awkwardly when answering the question, he should have been out there. And I think that the offense itself wondered why he was not out there.
Yeah, I mean, you think the quarterback wants the best running back in the SEC standing next to him? Yeah, I think so.
And
I think so.
And even when he was in there a couple of times, he was used as the lead blocker. And
yeah, and I don't hate that. I mean, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that a running back needs to be able to do to be as good as Jarquez is. And that's what makes Jarquez so good, is he's willing to do all of it. He'll pass protect, he'll lead block.
I agree
he'll do
with
a lot
that
of things.
in most situations. I don't agree with it when he's only got 12 touches and he clearly wants the ball, and now you're asking him to sacrifice when you haven't done anything for him at all that day.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think
if they ask him to lead block against Kentucky when he got 20 plus touches, I think he does it with vigor and enthusiasm. I think asking him to do it when you've had him on the sideline most of the day, it's kind of like, I don't know if you're going to get 100% out of him on that situation. So awkward to say the least. And then they asked Payton, they said, have you ever been winded before? He said, I mean, after a play, but not like for a game. And then that just made it even worse to me, because it's clearly, it's almost like if you read between the lines, he's going, if he was winded, I knew nothing about it until after the game when all of you knew nothing about it. It's what he sounded like he wanted. And I'm putting words in his mouth, but that's what it sounded like.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is our reaction to that. So, hey, let's jump into a little Auburn basketball. Two super fun games in two totally different ways. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Ben, can you imagine wagering anywhere other than FanDuel Sportsbook?
No, because right now, after my last couple of weeks of my picks, I'm just giving free money away. Might as well call me an ATM.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Auburn basketball right now, they've got the second best odds to win the SEC regular season.
Who's the first best? Alabama?
Alabama. Yeah.
But
Auburn is at plus 250. They're plus 420 to reach the Final Four.
Whoa.
Take that.
Take that
to the bank. We'll see if it happens or not. But hey, if you feel super confident about this Auburn team, you can bet on a plus 2,000. Bet 100, you get $2,000. Plus all the bonus bets that FanDuel throws at you. Right now, new customers can bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So head over to FanDuel, check out all the Auburn basketball lines every single game day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The Auburn basketball season starts Wednesday night, Ben Taylor, as they host Vermont. Whatever. I'm more excited about Saturday's game.
This literally is the opening act for a major concert. We don't really care. We do want to see it because they're famous, and we want to see the opening act because it's at home. However, we're ready for the lead headline to hit and the headliner to hit, and that is going to be Saturday at Houston in the quote-unquote neutral site game in the Toyota Center in Houston, where they have said that this will be a neutral game for both parties.
Whatever. It's going to be, I can't wait for it. But no, still like an opening act, though, you are excited that the concert and the show is starting. The vibes are there. You get to hear some good music. And I think Auburn's going to get, Auburn fans are going to see some good basketball against the Vermont Catamounts. And so, you get to see Janai Broome again. You get to see Dylan Cardwell again. You get to see Denver Jones and maybe a different role than we saw him a year ago. And you get to see a bunch of transfer guys come in, and you get to see Bruce Pearl's first stab at attempting to use this new super deep lineup that is probably going to be taking him a few weeks to figure out exactly how he wants to use all of these super talented, super athletic, super long athletes. And I think that's going to be almost more fun than the actual game of seeing like who's where, who's in with who, how do they sub out of certain things. It's going to be so fun.
And we'll see more of that against Vermont than what we've seen against the exhibition games that have been played. They've been kind of toying with everything, but knowing who they face on Saturday and a quad one possible win on Saturday if they knock off Houston out in Houston, I think that what you'll see, just like an opening act, you're going to see what you see against Vermont is probably going to be your starting lineup against Houston as well, because he's trying to get them in a rhythm, trying to get them where they're playing together. So it's going to be so interesting. I'm excited for it. I think this is going to be a fun team. I mean, Zach, the shooting percentages were not great in the last game, and they still hit triple digits. So this team is going to get up and down the floor. They're going to play with a lot of excitement. You're going to see a lot of lobs. I mean, you saw that just on the highlights that Auburn basketball itself released if you didn't get a chance to go to the game. And this is just going to be one of those teams that is going to be super fun to watch. I think even in losses, they're going to be putting up 85 and 90 points.
Yeah, they're going to want to run. They're going to try to exhaust opposing teams. I can't wait to see what kind of roles to see certain guys have, like the Hod Pettiford and Ja'Kai Howard, just so many different names. And we don't really know what to expect. We've heard great things about all of them. And so it's going to be fun to actually see them play Auburn basketball that actually counts. So Vermont, they are the Catamounts.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, like, what went into naming your mascot the Catamount? Because a catamount is like, it's just a large cat. And like a catamount could also be a mountain lion, a cougar, a puma, or a panther. And I think those are all objectively cooler than a catamount.
That's it. I mean, I'm sorry they didn't ask you. I agree. Although I like the word catamount, I like saying it. I think maybe that's one. Maybe the play-by-play person had a voice in that. You know what?
Yeah.
Be cooler than saying the Vermont Pumas on radio, the Vermont Catamounts. That would be a lot.
I don't think I agree with you. I don't think I agree.
Well, apparently Vermont agrees with me. That's why they named it that.
I guess so.
I like the name.
All right.
I think it's great.
Did they ask you?
No, they didn't ask me either.
They asked somebody like you, though.
And listen, it's better than Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. That's the dumbest name ever.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure.
A catamount sounds way cooler than a hilltopper.
Yeah.
I mean, which one would you rather be, a catamount or a hilltopper?
A catamount for sure.
Yeah. See, there you go. Argument answered.
I didn't say it was. Well, no, I didn't say. I didn't say it was the worst mascot name.
Okay.
I just said some of these things that are catamounts are better than the actual mascot. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's maybe catamounts are. Maybe they're very prevalent in Vermont. I don't know. I've never been to Vermont. I could not tell you. Yeah, I don't
know. Just expect this. It should be, I don't know if it will be, because it all comes down to shooting percentages. This should easily be a 20 to 30 point win by Auburn.
I agree with that. Unless they just go like ice cold and they're not on the same page because we're rotating too much. Like I could see that happening, but I don't think it will. This is a situation where like, even if the offense goes cold, the size and length that Auburn has defensively against Vermont.
Yes.
Like Vermont should have a hard time scoring regardless. Yes. So I agree with you.
Let me tell you one thing you're going to see out of this team, because you've seen it in the exhibition games. Defensively, they're going to beat some teams up because they have the depth to be able to sub out. There have been a lot of fouls called on this team over the first couple of exhibition games, and rightfully so, because they are fouled. But the thing is, teams are going to have a tough time dealing with that late in the second half after they've just been beat to you-know-what and back for the last 30 minutes before you go into that final 10-minute stretch of the game.
Sure. Ben Taylor, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
News Talk WANI, weekday morning 6A to 9A. Be sure to join us for sports just after 7. Different guests each and every day, some that you would recognize because they're on with Zac, just like Zac is on with me every now and then. So head over to aunetwork.com, click on the logo, or just go to newstalkwani.com, and you can find us there.
Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.